Alright everyone, so here is a quick tutorial on how to make drop-down lists in Google Sheets. So over here I just kind of have a layout for just a really quick spending tracker that you might end up using at some point. In the column A, we have just number values for how much money was spent on different things. In column B, we have the stores, and in column C, we have the spending categories. And I'm going to get rid of this one for now. So right here for spending categories, I would like to add in, make each cell a drop-down list. Remember that each one of these, where you can see that blue outline, that is considered a cell. I want to make each one of these a drop-down list so that I can just choose a option for what the spending category is. That way, for each part that you spend money on, so in this case in row 2, you should just be able to click on the cell in spending categories so that you can just choose what category you spent $40 on. So the first thing you need to do is you need to create a new Google Sheet, and the way you do that is you go to the bottom left and then you just click on Add Sheet. And what that does is that it adds a new sheet for you so that you can work in there. I already did that though. I have this list sheet right here. So I'm just going to delete this sheet 4 because I don't actually need it. Oops. I'm just going to write everything that I need to write in the list sheet. And if you want to rename your new sheet, just click on that arrow right next to the name, and then you can just click on rename, and it will let you make a new name for your sheet. Now, I already named it lists because any list that I make is going to go onto here. Now, the reason that we want to make lists is because each list is going to let us build the different options for our drop-down lists, for our drop-down, our drop-down list that we want to create so that we can have different options. So in this case, because going back to sheet 1, I want to make different possible spending categories, I made a list over here that is going to be the different spending categories. And let me zoom in a little bit actually so we can see this a little easier. There we go. Different spending categories could be, things like groceries, clothes, entertainment, rent, gas money, things like that. So literally any kind of category that you might spend money on, that would be a spending category. I'm just gonna go and let me see. I'm just gonna add garden right there as well. So I'm just gonna go ahead and use this list that I just made right here as my spending categories. So notice that I went out of my way to make it into a different sheet. By keeping these kinds of lists in their own separate sheet, you're allowing this first sheet to remain nice and clean. That way you don't have random information over here in the other columns. You can just specifically have this first sheet as just a way of keeping track of your stuff. And then if you want to look at the actual sheets, then you can just click on the lists sheet, and then you can see the different lists of different categories that you have. So I just made these ones. And now for the actual part where we actually make the drop-down list. The drop down list is going to be based off of what we have over here. So make sure you do this part first. So now we want to turn these cells into drop down lists. So what you want to do is you want to right click on the cell, and then we got to go all the way to the bottom of the options, which is data validation. And that's going to make this pop up. This is where we actually get to specify what exactly is going to be in those drop downs that we're creating. The first thing we want to do is make sure that we are affecting all of the cells that we want to affect. In other words, we are turning all the cells we want to turn into the drop downs. So in this case, I want C2, and I know this is C2 because I'm looking at the column and then the row. Obviously, I want C2 to be a drop-down list, but I also want C3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, because those are all the different possible options. So instead of just having C2 here, I'm going to click on that 4 square so that I can select a range. And then I'm going to click and hold down and drag so that I can get these blue squares to show up. And then I'm going to click OK. And you can see right here that that actually ended up changing the cell range in this first box. The next thing that we need to fill in is the criteria. That is the actual stuff that is going to be in that drop down. And that's going to be easy for us because we've already made a list of that and we know exactly where that list is. We don't have to go looking for it. We already know it's inside of the list sheet and it's in column A. So we're going to do something similar like we did for cell range. Over here where it says enter a range of formula, we're going to click on that 4 square and then it's going to tell us to select the data range. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on my list tab. And then I'm going to highlight all the different options. Notice I did not highlight the title of that list. The title, we're only highlighting the different options that we want to show up inside of the drop-down list. And obviously the title of that list is not something we want to have show there. We only want the different options to show. So we want to make sure that that is highlighted. Then we go back into sheet 1, click OK. And now you can see that it is showing that the criteria is from our list sheet. And then we're going from A2 to A7. Make sure that this is checkmarked. It says show drop-down list in cell. That's exactly what we're trying to do here. So make sure that stays checked. And then go ahead and click on save. And then you can see now that that window has closed and all of these now have arrows next to them. So if we click on the arrows now, you can see that I can choose the different options. And these options should look familiar because they are indeed the different options from this list right here. And that pretty much covers how to make a drop-down list.